up top, Andrea. Yeah, do swap presenter and view. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Mhm.
All right, recording has started.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and we do apologize for the technical difficulties. Just a couple of things to review with you for the upcoming data reporting collections and provide additional clarification to you. Yolanda, you want to talk about closing out the Table 4 exiting report? And I did add on this slide, you don't have to change, Andrea, just to
Okay.
let you know that the data from Table 4 exiting, we are still working on the closeout from the 22-23 school year. And that data for the data profile uses lag data. And it is applicable for indicators 1 and 2 on your IDEA data profiles. And when we get to the determinations, it is your more current, your more recent report. So Yolanda, there's a couple of things that Yolanda wants to share with you about the Table 4 clarification that was brought to our attention as we were cleaning the data. So next slide, please.
Oh,
I'm sorry. There you go.
and while we're getting the presentation back up, it- we did not have a whole lot of districts that had to make corrections on Table 4. And so if you did not see anything in the ADT, you did not have any corrections to make. And I'm in the process of updating those corrections for Table 4. And they are due by the 22nd of September. And if you could upload those corrections in Excel, please, to the Special Education Services email. And also, if your students are exiting with a high school diploma, you will need to exit those students in the year that the diploma is received. For GED and South Carolina credentials, they are exited in the year in which the student does not return, because they should have an IEP in place, and because of that, they are eligible to return. If you have students that are missing from your 22-23 report, if you could put the information, the student ID number and the SCDOE number, either or, in an Excel sheet and send it to me, I can add those to my report for this year. I'm going to pull another download once I get all of my other clarifications in, so that I can include any student that might be missing that graduated with a high school diploma. Did you want to talk about Table 5, Carolyn?
I can.
Okay.
My slide right now is incomplete, but nevertheless, I will give you the information. So there is an incident management training coming up. Yolanda, what's the date for Avine's incident management training? Do you remember?
September the 28th.
Okay. There was an email that was sent out, and I know some of you tried to register and it said that it was full. She did go in and increase the capacity for the enrollment. So if you have not registered for that session, please go ahead and register. That is going to be, that's the Incident Management Training 101. From the PowerSchool side of things, that lets you know the required fields that needs to be populated for the information that's going to impact your Table 5 report. We, the OSIS, will have a by invitation only to the data reporting managers session on Table 5 at the fall admin on October 12th and 13th, I believe it is. And for the data managers session, it's from 1 to 4 on that Friday, where we will get into talking about the specific codes, the things that you need to fill in, how those codes are going to tie into the report. So on the October 12th and 13th, or that Friday, the 13th, from 1 to 4 is when OSIS will host its version of the Table 5 incident management report, and we will extend that to Aveen as well. We do like to partner together because she is all things incident management. So if there's something that's not working, or if there's something that we may not be aware of from your standpoint, we need to know those things to make sure that it is a true representation of your district's Table 5 report when we pull in June. We will try to get a mid-year report to you. We're trying to get a mid-year report. We will get a mid-year report to you in December, early January. So you'll kind of see what your data will look like for that Table 5 submission in June. Okay. Next slide. Indicator 14, there's a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. When I am uploading your results in ADT, please make sure that you are checking for duplicates. I'm running into situations where I'm having to remove duplicates for double entry. In some instances, the same survey code has been entered maybe 2 or 3 times for the same student. And so although I'm removing on my end, but I'm thinking maybe I need to leave those in there so that you can see what those duplicates are. But if I leave them in there, it's not going to be a true representation of your response rates. And so I don't want to be misleading on your response rate. So I've been taking those duplicates out. But if you want to know what those duplicates are, by all means, I could send that to you. When you're keying in the survey results, question mark, even though the system will take it, it's not a valid survey code. Please, you never ever want to enter the student's name. I've seen some survey come through with the students' names in there. I'm removing them and updating with the correct survey code. Same thing with the school year. That is not valid. I can't do anything for that. That gives me absolutely nothing. So those are deleted. I've seen some instances where student ID numbers or the state SUNS ID number has been used for the survey code. Please, please, please. There you were provided with a spreadsheet that has the survey codes, survey ID numbers in there. So please make sure that you're using that and not the student ID number or the SUNS ID numbers. Where you have used them, I've gone in and made those corrections for you. But if I'm making those corrections and placing those updates in ADT for you, please don't continue to do that. And when we are looking at the response rate, the does not want to participate, no answer 3 attempts, and the deceased are excluded. So only the students that have the not applicable are factored into the response rate. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there to you so that you'll know what's going on behind the scenes and the things that I'm doing behind the scenes to clean your data to give you a true representation of what your response rate actually is. Next slide. Okay, your Table 8 MOE report is coming up. It's due the second Friday in October, and that is currently still an Excel spreadsheet that is submitted to the Special Education Services at ed.sc.gov email address. I believe we sent the template out with last month's report, but in the event, I will include that attachment when I send out the information from today's meeting. When I send the PowerPoint to you from today's meeting, I will include it again. A couple of things to remember, next slide, for the Table 8 report. And I just want to give this to you in the simplest terms as possible. In column D2, basically, it says that you're reporting the total number of students receiving CEIS under IDEA in the LEA during the 22-23 school year, okay? So that is basically, you want to report the number of children who receive CEIS, right? And you used IDEA funds, right? It is an unduplicated count. and you want to include those kids that ultimately went on, that are receiving any form of CEIS services with IDEA funds, and that's crucial. In D2, what you want to, that report in that column, basically, you're looking at any students who were receiving CEIS services from the previous 2 years and ultimately went on to be identified as a student with a disability during the 22-23 school year, right? So in D2, you're looking at all the students who received CEIS services during that current year. And then in D3, you're looking at the previous 2 years and the current year to say, okay, these students were receiving CEIS services with IDEA funds for the last 2 years and ultimately went on to be identified as a student with a disability. And so that's what column D3 represents. Next slide, please. Okay, so you want to ask yourself the question, were IDEA funds used? If the answer is yes, then you should have a count with an amount, okay? If the answer is no, then your count is going to be 0 and your amount is going to be 0. Next slide. Okay, and I know there are some districts that think, okay, for the question that says, was 15% voluntarily set aside? Okay, if the answer is yes, then you should have a count of students as well as that 15% that you set aside. If the answer is no, then there should be 0 for both counts and for the funds. It can't be that you set aside the funds and you didn't have any students, or you had students and didn't set aside any funds. It has to go hand in hand. And remember, the key for this is, was IDEA funds used? Now, I know that some districts have some services that they provide to students, which is on the gen ed side, and that is perfectly fine. We are only concerned with the ones that you are using IDEA funds for, okay? Next slide. Okay, so when we're reporting the students for CEIS, it works hand in hand. So you must use IDEA funds to serve the students, and you must have a total for those students. So in D2 and D3, if you have students, you should have funds set aside and vice versa, okay? I'm just wanted to show you that, and if you don't have any students, then you shouldn't have any funds set aside, and that amount in both columns should be 0. Okay, next slide. This information is also used for those districts who have been identified for significant disproportionality, where you are required to set aside 15%, and it is a risk ratio of 3.0 for disciplinary actions and greater than 4.0 for identification and placement is what triggers for significant disproportionality, where you are required to set aside your 15%, which is known as CCEIS funds, okay? And the LEAs are notified annually in the fall in those districts that met the threshold or the risk ratio for significant disproportionality. You're in the process of being notified if you have not received your official notifications as of yet. It is forthcoming. And those LEAs are reported to OSEP during the year in which they are required to reserve the funds. So you're not required to, you won't be reported until the year in which you are required to set aside your funds. For significant disproportionality, CCEIS, I think this is a duplicate of the previous slide, so you can go to the next one. Okay, one of the new things that we do have to report is for those districts that are required to set aside 15% of their funds, similar to what you did for D2 and D3, but on this side of it, you're actually giving us the number of children with disabilities and without disabilities that you are using those funds for. So it's just a total count of the students that you are providing services to for the significant disproportionality area in which you've been identified. We know that when it comes to the requirement for those districts who are required to set aside those funds, you can use those funds for students with disabilities and without disabilities. And so OSIP is asking us to report those numbers, the number of students that with disabilities and without disabilities that you're providing services to. I did want to include for you for the identification for the 23-24 school year for significant disproportionality. The data years and set that we will use will consist of the 2020-21, 21-22, and 22-23 data. And that's going to be from your child count, as well as your Table 5 discipline report. So identification and placement data comes from your child count, and your discipline comes from your Table 5 data. So, and for the placement, it does include students that are 5 and in kindergarten. So just wanted to let you know the data set that we'll be using for this population for significant disproportionality, in case you have any questions. Next slide, please. Okay, for the child count date is October 26th, which is the 4th Tuesday in October, and that is the snapshot date. Your submission for child count is due the November 4th, which is the first Friday in November. So you don't have to submit on the child count date. That is not your submission date. That is your snapshot date, which means that all the students on your report should be enrolled and attending as of that date, okay? And we're hoping to have all certifications by January 6th. I know that's a huge window in there. So as soon as your district is cleared and you can go to the next slide, and I have all of your information, we'll begin sending out the certifications for your child count report. Did want to add this in there because I know that when it comes to the LRE codes in the Enrich system, it gets a little wonky, especially because of the break in the 5K and pre-K students, right? So this guidance was created a couple of years ago, and I thought it was beneficial to include it into the PowerPoint so that you could have it to refer to. So you want to ask your teachers in the district, what is the child's age? What is their current age? And so if they're 3, right? Easy peasy, nothing special, nothing spectacular. You want to choose an early childhood IEP and enter one of the LRE codes for early childhood placement. Simple. But if the child is 4 and will turn 5 and enroll in kinder during the course of the IEP, then it gets a little trickier, right? So you ask yourself, will the child turn 5? If the answer is no, then you want to choose an early childhood IEP and once again, enter one of the early childhood LRE placements. But if the answer is yes, you do need to choose a school age IEP, and then you'll enter 2 LRE placement codes, one for the remainder of the current school year to complete the early childhood pre-K portion, and 2, because when school starts the following year, that child will be in kindergarten. So you want to make sure that you enter a second LRE, school age LRE for that child to start the next school year, okay? And we did add in there just a reminder that whenever you're writing the kindergarten IEP, you want to go ahead and do your exit costs as well. And those should be completed 3 weeks prior to the end of the school year when the kindergarten IEP is written. Next slide, please. Okay, if the child is 5 years old, there are 2 questions that you want to ask. The first is, will the child turn 6 years old or enter kindergarten during the course of this IEP? If the answer is no, then you want to choose an early childhood IEP and enter one of the early childhood LRE placement codes. If the answer is yes, you want to choose the school age IEP for the child and an early childhood IEP for that remainder of the childhood or pre-K LRE for the remainder of that child's pre-K IEP. Which grade will the child be in? If the child is kindergarten only, you want to enter a school age LRA replacement. If the child is pre-K and kinder, you need to have enter 2 LRE placement codes for those students, similar to the child turning 4. You want to make sure that there's an LRE code for the remainder of that pre-K IEP to complete the current year, and then the second to start the next school year, which should ultimately be the first day of school for the next school year. So the students that falls into this criteria should have an LRE. If they're currently in kindergarten and their IEP was written last year, they should start the year off with a second LRE for their school age portion of the IEP with a start date of the first day of school, either in August or September, depending upon when your school resumed for the 23-24 school year. And as always, we want to remember to do your exit codes 3 weeks prior to the end of the school year and when you're doing the kindergarten IEP. Before you submit your data to OSIS, just look for the following fields. These fields cannot be blank. If there are blanks and the system is not allowing you to add it in, I know it's extra work for the districts, but it is the only way that I can think of to make sure that your data is correct for your reports, especially considering the implications of this data once it's been submitted to our office. Grade level cannot be blank. Race, ethnicity cannot be blank. Your gender, the multilingual learner or ESOL cannot be blank, and definitely your primary disability cannot be blank, okay? And you want to definitely check for the LRE age grade mismatch. So if the student is age 3, 4, 5, and in pre-K, they should have an early childhood LRE code, and their age should be applicable to that. Age and grade level should be applicable to that. If the student is 5K or 6 through 21, they should have a school age LRE, and they should be in grades kinder or 1 through 12 to coincide with that. Next slide. For the students that are DD, developmental delay, this is not a valid disability category for students 10 or older. Unresolved DD will be removed from your child count report if you do not have them resolved, or if you know it will not be resolved by the time we do certification. Just let me know and I'll go ahead and remove those students from your report. When it comes to the DD and making those corrections in the system, even though you will have a newer category for those students, it will not print on the report because it is looking at the disability at the time of your child count, as of the child count date. So if the corrections occur after that, you'll need to notify me in the Excel spreadsheet, in the clarification Excel spreadsheet that you will receive. DD students cannot be initially identified at ages 8 or 9. Both will produce a federal error. And DD students should be reevaluated by their 10th birthday. I know that districts have wiggle room with that, but the sooner we can get on a system or get a process in place where these students are re-identified or reevaluated prior to that 10th birthday, the better it will be for your reports, because it is our goal to include all students on your child count report that are receiving services. And unfortunately, if the DD students are not reevaluated by their 10th birthday, then we'll have to remove them from the reports. Next slide. Once again, our meetings will always be the third Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. It is always the same call-in information. We did want to remind you of our systemic, which formerly pre-checks, formerly data quality checks, which are now known as systemic verification checks for indicators 7, 11, and 12. Those due dates are November 18th. February 17th and April 14th. We do strongly encourage you to submit for those reports and try to get those changes and corrections in sooner rather than later. The idea is to get you as compliant as possible prior to submitting your reports. And I know that when it comes to indicators 11 and 12, a lot of districts are falling in that non-compliance because they're waiting on the parents to consent. I would strongly encourage you to revisit your practices, to go ahead and close out those evaluations and remain compliant. And then when you receive the information from the parents, it is still current information that you can use. So it's not like you're restarting everything from scratch. You can still use the current information, and that will keep you compliant. Next slide.
And Carolyn, before you move on, those systemic verification check dates are, I think, 1 day off, but we'll correct those. And I think some of the child count, so we'll correct those if you're seeing differently on your calendar. We'll correct those before we send the PowerPoint out.
Okay, thank you for that. Oh, the child count is October 24th. My apologies on that. Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. As always, our contact information, we are down 2 team members. So if when the positions are posted, if anyone out there is interested, please do apply. Just always, we are here to assist you in whatever way possible. What we don't want is for you to get frustrated and just start making miscellaneous mistakes. Call us. We will walk you through it. We will guide you through it as best we can. If you're still experiencing issues within the frontline system for your reports, if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, go ahead and submit those tickets to the Enrich system. I would encourage you to start downloading and checking your child count report sooner rather than later. We know over the last couple of years that things tend to happen the week of submission. So the sooner you can get in and see what's going on with your data, the better off it'll be. Okay. And now we want to open the floor to anyone that may have questions, or if there's any questions in the chat that needs to be answered.
Give me one moment to unmute everyone. Okay, the floor is open now for questionings. If you want to unmute yourself, you can.
And we will share the PowerPoint. Fell a little behind this week. Days and we're starting to clash together.
I do show a question from Lexington Richland 5, and it says, when will indicators 7, 11, and 12 be available in Enrich?
By Monday, it should be available. We were waiting for the last year report to be finalized before we opened it up, but we'll go ahead and open it up for you now.
And I see that there's a question from Sam asking about the updated collection calendar that is on the website. I think that Yolanda has posted that link within the chat. There is also another question that has come up. How do you fix a missing middle name error on child count report if student does not have a middle name?
If it should just be a warning. Not all students have a middle name, but if the child has a middle name, that should be entered into the system. That helps us when we're merging records or when we're looking for duplicates. Sometimes one district may have entered a middle name and the other may omitted the middle name, but you always want to enter the child's name according to what's on the birth certificate.
Okay, and then we have another question about do we contact our district IT or a specific person at the state level to ensure the correct district contact is receiving communication? And
So for that question, you want to make sure that your information is in Deems, and that is done strictly within your district. You want to contact your technology coordinator or your Power School coordinator, whomever is responsible for updating the contact list in Deems, but it's definitely someone within your district. We do send this meeting. I update my list. On the first Monday of every month. So if you are currently not in there, sorry, you won't be added to the list until the following month or whenever the month after you have been added in Deems. But I do update that list on a monthly basis, and you must either be assigned to the role of the special education director, the special education secondary contact, the data reporting manager, or the enrich contact, because roles vary from district to district. Those are the 4 roles that I send it to. When it comes to the special education records transfer group, same thing applies. You have to be listed as the special education records transfer in order to appear on that list. That list I only share with the special education records transfer. It is not shared with the directors, the data reporting managers. It is only sent to whomever is listed as the special education records transfer.
okay, and then there is a another question. Are we going to get an Indicator 14 opt-in weekly update this week?
Yes, technically I've been out all week and I'm still out, but I will try to have it uploaded in ADT by the end of the day.
This is from Lynn Hollis. We are seeing warnings and criticals on child count report. I know we can submit with warnings. Can we also submit with criticals?
No, you cannot submit with criticals. If it's something that's coming up as critical, it has to be addressed before you can submit.
Okay, and then let me go back up. I missed one. Have the invitations for the Table 5 training been sent out yet?
No, we provided our contact person in our office, Sarah McKay. We provided her with the current list of data reporting managers that's currently in Deems. And Albert, we may want to do a newer download from Deems just to make sure that we are sending it to the right group. And there have been no changes. So we'll do another download and provide her with an updated list to send the invitation to for the October 13th meeting.
And I don't think I think I missed this one too from Kayla. We have errors of scheduling RE is blank. How do you correct these?
So it's twofold. That is your race ethnicity. First, double check Enrich to see or to determine whether or not the student was manually entered, and if there's a race ethnicity for that child. There shouldn't be any race ethnicity issues coming from Power School because that is a required field. I did have one district that had some issues with their Hispanic students that caused them to be inappropriately identified for significant disproportionality. So you definitely want to make sure that whatever's in Power School coincides with what's in the Enrich system, and vice versa. So if there's a race ethnicity blank issue appearing on your report, it's most likely from a manually entered student within the Enrich system.
Okay, and then there's another question. Does our data manager have to be the one attending, or can someone else from our department attend?
No, someone else from your department can attend. We just ask that if the invitation goes to someone who's not attending, and if someone else is attending on their behalf, to let us know.
There's another question. On my submission, the missing middle name is shown as an error instead of a warning. How can I resolve this if the students do not have a middle name? I think we answered that one. It just came up again.
Yeah, if it's showing up as an error and not a warning, just submit a ticket to Enrich and they should take care of that. Its middle names are supposed to be a warning, not a critical error.
And I think that I have captured, and if I have not, you may want to bring it to my attention so that I can either read it out for you, or you can come off of mute to ask your question. And I have a new message that just popped up. What if RE is blank, not manually entered record, but the information is in PowerSchool? How do I correct?
That has to be corrected on the PowerSchool side, and once it's corrected on the PowerSchool side, during the nightly interface process, it should update. But if there's any issues on the PowerSchool side, you have to contact your PowerSchool coordinator in your district to resolve that.
I don't show any other questions in the chat. Again, if I have omitted your question placed in the chat, you may come off of mute to ask your question.
And while we're waiting on anyone else who may have additional questions for table 4, if you have any students that you would like to have added to the report, please resubmit in Enrich, and I will be doing another download, and I will incorporate those into my first download that I did. Thank you.
There is another question that just came up. Is anyone else having big issues with Enrich? No overnight rollover, nurses not able to log in, reports grayed out. And I think we're getting some yes from other districts.
I'm not sure about anything on the nurses side. That's outside of my scope. But once again, if someone is having, or a role, user role is having issues with the system, and if it's happening across districts, then you definitely want to have them to contact support to find out what's going on. As we get closer to the end of the year, hopefully by December, we'll have a clear, solid plan to give you about the transition of the data, and what data is going to be transferred from your system. We'll be able to give you more insight about when the system will officially close for the current year. So we may have to back some report dates up to be able to include all of our reports and officially close things with the Enrich Frontline system and start using the PCG system. But hopefully we'll have a more solid, clear plan in place, and clear information to provide to you, hopefully by December. Okay. It doesn't have to be related to today's PowerPoint, but if you have any data collection and reporting questions, you may ask at this time. If not, that concludes today's meeting.
Carrie, with Hampton County